Yo, what's good, fam? How's it going? It's your boy, Main Deck Perfy, and today we've got a special episode of Cram Sessions. In today's topic for Cram Sessions, we're going to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. My favorite deck to talk about, my favorite deck to play and pilot, and that is Merlin Kinglsayer. Very recently, I've taken Merlin to quite a few different events, whether it's Ascent Akihabara, whether it's regional events, whether it's Ascent Niagara Falls, where I made top 8. I have loved playing this deck, mostly because it's incredibly flexible and incredibly powerful. In today's Cram Session topic, we're going to talk about just a couple key things here about Merlin. I'm going to talk about why to pick Merlin, understanding the meta, the key flex cards that you'll play based off of the meta, and some of the fun interactions that I love to do on Merlin. Nevertheless, let's dive in. Why to pick Merlin? One of the things that I love most about Merlin is the level 2 and the level 3. So, level 2 Merlin Memory Thief allows you to deny resources from your opponent. So whether you're in a Merlin mirror match, or maybe you're playing someone that's got a lot of floating memory, or they rely on fire cards in their graveyard, Merlin level 2 Memory Thief will allow you to exhaust it or tap it and deny some of those resources while potentially buffing yourself up under the assumption that there is floating memory. It's quite powerful to deny your opponent's resource, as well as if you get the additional level counter off of it, which is super nice and super handy. In addition to that, Merlin Kinglsayer, which is the level 3, has a lot of inevitability and a lot of resource gain, as well as pressure applied. Because every other turn, whenever you go to an even level counter, you get to draw a card and you get an additional 2 attack for your attacks that turn. It means that you're applying both additional pressure and you're getting more influence to be able to close out the game much better. I think that Merlin Kinglsayer is one of the best champions, if not the best champion in the game. So moving forward into why to pick Merlin, I think that Merlin's also very flexible. You have a lot of your core strategy is based around efficiently leveling up. However, you can just put those cards face down into your memory and play pressure cards or allies like Hasty Messenger or Cheshire Cat, and then just banish the bad cards from memory to level up whenever there's like a sensor or restful piece on the battlefield. This makes it so that you have a lot of flexibility in your game plan. In addition to that, you also have a lot of early pressure. Because you're playing Lorraine level 1, you're getting the free materialization of a sword, air quotes free, because sometimes Vanitas makes it impossible to do that. However, I digress. Then you get to couple those swords up with things like Cheshire Cat and Flame Rune Swordsmans, or Hasty Messengers and 3 of Hearts, where you're doing a lot of chip damage and kind of pressuring your opponent or keeping the battlefield clear, which is really nice. So having this early pressure, this chip damage, makes your late game much faster and much easier to kind of find the lethal lines to close out the game. Additionally, it fights for board very efficiently. I know I spoke about this very briefly, but Cheshire Cat clears boards very well. Your sword swings clears boards really well. Having like the additional 1 point of damage with Hasty Messengers and Liminal Guides allows you to take down things like opposing Windmill Engineers, or like a Hasty Messenger, a Liminal Guide, and a Sword Swing takes down an Ace Protector. A Cheshire Cat takes down an Ace Protector if you have both Inert Sword and Sword of Shadows on the battlefield. It's very powerful to be able to keep the board clear, and it does it so efficiently and so seamlessly while progressing its game plan. It's quite nice. In addition to that, it has late game inevitability. Being able to churn through your deck as efficiently as Merlin Kinglsayer does, it makes it so that you're almost always finding your lethal lines with things like Fireball, with things like Spirit Blade Ascension, Incarnate Majesty, Ghost of Pendragons, etc., etc. The high draw mechanics in this game, or in Fire Merlin specifically, whether you're creative shocking, whether you're hitting an even level counter, you're revealing a water card off of your Prismatic Edge, you're using 3 of Hearts, you're using Hasty Messenger, etc., etc., etc. You're finding the cards that close out the game the best. So it does have a lot of in-game inevitability, which is super fun and gives you a really high skill ceiling because you see so much of your deck. you're able to utilize a few flex spots much better, more efficiently. Next up, I want to talk about understanding the meta. The reason why this is important is because Merlin is a very meta-dependent deck. It handles quite a few decks very well, and it has like a close to a 50-50 matchup into a lot of other decks, maybe 60-40 favored or unfavored. Understanding the meta is going to be key to playing Merlin. You're going to need to realize how many fast combo decks there are, whether it's Fractals, whether it's Wind Seiryu, or how many slow combo decks there are, whether that is Razor Gale Kongming or perhaps Water Kongming. I don't necessarily know if that's considered a combo deck, but it kind of does some gimmicky things here or there. In addition to that, things like aggro decks for Wind Wake Up, Philo or Fire Lorraine, level 3 decks such as Oblation CL or Fire Crux Lorraine. Understanding what's in the meta is going to allow you to tune in tech for it. Because if you're playing things like CL, you're going to want to have tech cards like Crystallized Destiny. Similarly, for Fire Crux Lorraine, it makes your life a lot easier to hit a Rending Flames with a Crystallized Destiny, making it so that it prevents all of the damage of their huge swings in their big attack turns. Or if you need to fight boards that go wide, you're going to need to tech your flex spots for things like Resolute Stand so that you can stop wide boards instead of tall boards. Or if you're looking at things like Razor Gale Kongming or Water or Fire Fractals, you'll need to find things like Blanche or have Safeguard Amulet. You need to really understand what type of meta you're going to go into so you can know what flex cards to pick and choose to put into your deck. Although the deck is pretty much ironed out in regards to its ability to filter cards, have a plethora of floating memory, have your in-game cards, which are like Fireball, Ghost of Pendragon, Ascension, etc., etc. You do still have about 2 to 8 flex spots in your deck to make sure that you can survive to get to that point of the game. And so taking time out to read the meta, look at previous results and tournament history so that you can see what decks are doing well, what decks are consistently finding their way to the top of the meta, will allow you to pick and choose what flex spots to put in there. In the most recent tournament, sent Akihabara, the meta was so wide open, it was incredibly difficult. I personally planned for a slightly different type of meta and ran into the opposite side of it, which was super awkward. However, if you can pinpoint the meta down pretty easily, it makes it so that Merlin is far more efficient when it's a little bit more of a closed meta, where you know like 2 to 4 decks that you're going to see very consistently over and over and over again. So let's talk about some of these key flex cards. Number 1, Blanche Sheltering Saint. Blanche is going to help out a lot against things like Fractals because 2 cards in your memory will make it so that a Burst Asunder will do 0 damage. Fire Fractals, making it so that really any life damage prevention you have is going to make that matchup significantly easier. Or Razor Gale Kongming, where all of the damage are instances of 1. So Blanche basically shuts that down as long as it can stay on the battlefield. Incarnate Majesty. Similarly, when you're playing against an opponent who is going to try and play a slower in-game focused matchup, Incarnate Majesty bringing out the Majestic Spirit will make it so that your life will be significantly easier because they'll have to then get through the Majestic Spirit first and then get to you. Or Incapacitate. Sometimes you're playing a matchup where resources are aplenty. You know you're going to be able to get all of the value out of your floating memory. You're going to have plenty of cards to play. You're going to have plenty of influence, and Incapacitate is one of the best cards to ensure that their combo game plan doesn't go through or their protection doesn't go through when you're trying to push for lethal yourself. Crystallized Destiny, again, very good against really tall attacks. Also very good against Wind Wake Up when they're trying to go for their combo lines. What type of floating memory you want to put into your deck. Sometimes you want to go with water or wind floating memory to attack a specific part of the meta so that when you're playing Prismatic Edge and Spirit Blade Ascension, you can get the most value out. We call that Skittles because you're playing generally a fire, a water, and a wind float so that you can get the maximum value out of your Prismatic Edge and your Spirit Blade Ascension, which will deal 3 damage, draw you a card, and banish a card out of your opponent's memory, basically being like backbreaking every time you play it. And then finally, Resolute Stand. Whenever your opponents are going wide, whenever they're playing a bunch of allies to the board, you can Resolute Stand, stop all of that damage for the turn, kind of buy you another turn pushing forward. These key flex cards will make it so that when you're analyzing the meta, you know how many of these cards you need to see, how frequently you need to see them in order to get to that end game state so you can win the game. Now, finally, I want to talk about just a small handful of interactions that I've found incredibly useful in my time with Merlin. So you've got a Spirit Blade Ascension. It's a 1-cost card that allows you to return a sword and bring out another sword. More times than not, you're going to put a fire card down, play Prismatic Ascension, Spirit Blade Ascension, bring out Prismatic Edge, and it's going to reveal, and you're going to feel bad because, you know what, all you have is a fire card down. Something that I've found useful is when I have a 2 durability sword, I don't need the extra attack from the Prismatic Edge. I attack with a 2 durability sword. I play Ghost of Pendragon, putting down 2 of my off-color floating memory cards, whether it's fire, water, wind, doesn't matter. And when Ghost of Pendragon enters the battlefield, an on-enter trigger will happen. I'll hold priority, and then I'll play the 3rd colored floating memory card down and play Spirit Blade Ascension. Thus, when Prismatic Edge comes out, I'll be able to get all 3 colors, fire, wind, and water, off of my Prismatic Edge, and then my Ghost of Pendragons will then return the Prismatic Edge to my material deck, drawing me 2 cards. This is something that I've found very useful when I don't necessarily plan on going for that lethal line right then and there, so that I don't need that extra 1 point of damage. Adversely, the same thing you could do is instead of Ghost of Pendragon, you could play Spirit Blade Ascension, and then once the Prismatic Edge resolves and lands on the battlefield with the on-enter trigger on the stack, you can play Cruxite, returning the Ascension back to your hand. This allows you to put all 3 off-color cards into your memory so that you can have Skittles essentially, and you have another Ascension in hand after you draw a card, or if you have the influence to do it again. This makes it so you can get the maximum value out of your Ascension. Finally, something that I found very difficult is Eternal Magistrate, because Eternal Magistrate makes it so that you cannot Spirit Blade Ascension unless you're in your materialization step. So one thing you can do is you can materialize a card that has an on-enter trigger, such as Drawn Blade. And then with the on-enter trigger on the stack, you can Spirit Blade Ascension. Because you're still in your materialization step, you can bring out Prismatic Edge and then shoot the Eternal Magistrate, or shoot them, or really whatever you need to do to bring out Prismatic Edge. It's quite handy. Things that I've found throughout my time playing Merlin. Keep these in your back pocket in the event that you ever need them. Anyways, thank you all so much for coming to my Cram session. Hopefully you found it useful. Have yourself a beautiful day. Deuces.